Good morning, I'm Taylor Wilson, and today is Friday, October 3rd, 2025. This is USA Today's The Excerpt. Today, how do Americans feel about Trump in his second term? Plus, a judge makes a First Amendment-related ruling against the Trump administration, and we chat about Taylor Swift's new album. We're getting new data into how Americans feel about President Donald Trump and his stint in office a second time around. Ahead of this week's federal government shutdown, a New York Times Siena poll taken September 22nd through the 27th found that voters kept Trump's approval rating steady at 43%. The Times reported that at the start of his term, Trump's approval rating fell from its post-election highs and remains weak compared with his predecessors at this point in their presidencies. Additionally, the poll found 26% said they would blame congressional Republicans and Trump for a shutdown, while 19% pointed their fingers at the Democrats, though most said both parties would be at fault. Meanwhile, a historical analysis by Gallup shows Trump's approval ratings in September of his first years in office during both terms are lower than any other modern president at the same time in their administrations. And a Pew survey conducted September 22nd through the 28th found Trump's approval rating stands at 40%, up slightly since August and on par with April and June. You can read a full breakdown of some of these polls with a link in today's show notes. A judge has ruled that Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, along with their subordinates, misused their authority to target non-citizen pro-Palestinians for deportation, primarily on account of their First Amendment-protected political speech. I spoke with USA Today First Amendment reporter Brianna Frank for more. Brianna, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So what was this handwritten note, and really just what is this case center on?
So this case surrounds the Trump administration's effort to deport foreign-born student protesters over their advocacy for Palestine. And the judge issued a decision on this case a couple of days ago, and at the top of his opinion, there was a handwritten note that said, quote, "Trump has pardons and tanks. What do you have?" And the paper said that this had been sent to the court over the summer. And the judge responded with a typed response saying, "Alone, he has nothing but a sense of duty, but together, Americans have the Constitution." And he ended that by saying, "Here's how that works in a specific case," before getting into his actual opinion.
Gotcha. So what else did the judge say, I guess, about the First Amendment and non-citizen rights? And just more generally, more broadly, what's the context here around the First Amendment?
Well, the judge essentially said that the Trump administration had violated the First Amendment by its efforts to deport certain student protesters. One of the other key things about the case was that he said non-citizens have the same free speech rights as citizens. So those are certainly two very big takeaways from the case.
All right. Well, how about the Trump administration? How are they responding to the ruling?
Several departments within the Trump administration got back to me criticizing the decision, criticizing the judge. The White House called the ruling, quote, "outrageous," and said it, quote, "hampers the safety and security of our nation." And another State Department spokesperson said that the country has no obligation to allow these students that they were trying to deport into the country.
All right. So what's next here, Brianna? Where do you see this going?
Well, the White House vowed to appeal the decision, and they said that they were confident that they would win on appeal. So we'll just have to see what happens there and what another judge might think about all this.
All right. Brianna Frank covers the First Amendment for USA Today. Thank you, Brianna.
Thanks, Taylor.
President Trump has determined that the U.S. is in a non-international armed conflict with drug cartels, according to a notice the Pentagon sent to some members of Congress this week. The administration is expected to ramp up a counter-cartel operation that has so far killed 17 people. They designated multiple drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations in February, and in recent months, the military has consolidated a massive amount of naval firepower in the Caribbean, including 4 Navy missile-guided destroyers and an amphibious assault ship. The military launched the first deadly strike on a boat off the coast of Venezuela, killing 11 people in early September. In the week since, 2 additional strikes each killed 3 people. The administration is encouraging leaders at 9 universities to sign a compact committing their schools to adopt President Trump's policy agenda for higher education in exchange for preferential access to federal funds. Administrators at 9 prominent universities, both private and public, received a letter from the White House earlier this week urging them to sign an expansive 10-page compact for excellence in higher education. The effort marks an escalation of Trump's battle to reshape colleges and universities, which Republicans have long criticized as overwhelmingly liberal. Critics, including the nation's leading lobbying group for college presidents, slammed the latest move as government overreach into academia. The 10-point agreement obtained by USA Today would commit participating schools to cap international undergraduate enrollment at 15% of the student body, freeze tuition over the next 5 years, and require applicants to take the SAT, ACT, or other similar entry exams. Taylor Swift's new album is here. I caught up with USA Today national music writer Melissa Ruggieri to talk about The Life of a Showgirl, out today. Melissa, thanks for joining me.
Of course. Always happy to talk about what we're going to talk about.
Very exciting stuff. So I just want to get your initial impression here of Swift's latest album.
It is a very fun record. It's very pop. It's the exact opposite of the Tortured Poets Department, which was very melancholy and introspective and something that she was compiling after a breakup. Whereas this, she is very clearly in love, and we all know with whom, and she's not afraid to tell people about it.
You say in love. She's, of course, engaged now. I mean, how strong were those themes, I guess, on this album?
There's a lot of songs about emotional rescue and a lot of songs about, I thought I had found the one, but I always got it wrong. And now I've got you and you're the guy. And, she's also got some songs that have a bit of innuendo in them as well that I'm not sure that a 9-year-old might want to listen to. But, she is a 35-year-old woman, so she's allowed to say whatever she wants. But she's definitely very much enthralled with the idea of being with someone who respects her, and that comes across in a lot of the songs.
Cool. And I mean, how did this compare with some of her recent work?
I kind of liken it to a combination of 1989 and Reputation because as upbeat and happy as many of the songs are, she's also still got that Taylor bite. There's I'm going to stick the knife in a little bit to somebody who obviously wronged her, which is going to have the internet very busy, I think, once they read some of the lyrics or hear some of the lyrics. And, she's also got a couple songs about people who just want to keep putting her down for whatever reason. And she's very defiant, as she often is. But I got to say, I mean, some of the melodies on this are some of the best things that she's ever done.
Wow. All right. How do you think this will land with Swifties, Melissa? And how about the, I guess, general public?
I think everybody is going to love it. The Tortured Poets Department was one of those albums that was very haunting and was very deep. And I remember when I wrote about it, I listened to it several times, but then there was nothing that really made me want to listen to it just in the car, in the background, or anything. This is the album that you want to do those things with. There's so much pop stuff on it and so many great melodies and so many fun choruses that it's one of those albums that sort of just gets in your brain. And I think a lot of the songs are the type that people are just going to, have a hummable thing that you don't always get with a lot of pop music these days. And if, Taylor is a master at writing choruses and writing bridges and just coming up with really great hooks. She's also working with Max Martin and Shellback again, whom she hadn't worked with since 2017, the Swedish producers, because she recorded this when she was on tour last year in Sweden. And they obviously are huge pop guys. I mean, they've worked with every major pop star of the last 20 years, and they bring that sensibility to this too. So she definitely wanted to go in a different direction, and she certainly did.
Gotcha. Well, was there a particular track or maybe one or two that stood out to you, whether you liked it the most or maybe the most interesting?
Opalite. There's a song called Opalite that has a very 60s girl group vibe to it that I just can't get out of my head. Every time I've gone back to listen to the album, I go to that one first. And also the first single of the album, The Fate of Ophelia, which is also a Travis related song. Taylor loves her literature, and so she's using a character from Shakespeare, Ophelia, who went mad and killed herself because, just with love-related things. And she's sort of likening, I think, her own mentality prior to meeting Travis and how he brought her out of that and what he has done for her. And it's also just a really solid pop song.
All right. Big day for Swifties, big day for music across the board. Melissa Ruggieri is the national music writer for USA Today. Thank you, Melissa.
You got it.
And later today, for 75 years, Charlie Brown, Lucy, and Snoopy have reflected life's joy and its disappointments. Andrew Blauner, the editor and publisher of an anthology of essays about Peanuts called The Peanuts Papers, talked to us about the lasting impact of the strip.
Life is beautiful and wonderful, but it's also a struggle, and there's lots of disappointments. And for grown-ups and children alike, to see these children going through the travails and the trials and tribulations of life, it validates them.
Planner joined my colleague Dana Taylor to discuss why Peanuts still feels timeless, how Snoopy became an unlikely muse for writers, and why Schultz's simple drawings carry such depth. That's coming today right here on this feed, beginning at 4 Eastern. And thanks for listening to The Excerpt. We're produced by Kaylee Monahan, and our executive producer is Laura Beatty. You can get the podcast wherever you get your audio, and as always, you can email us at podcasts@usatoday.com. I'm Taylor Wilson, and I'll be back tomorrow with more of The Excerpt from USA Today.